Hey guys, this is Sleepless Authors here, and we're going to talk about the pros and cons of writing constantly. So, as a blogger, it is a endless demand to keep the content going, but we also can't compromise on quality because then we're not really putting good stuff into the web sphere and we're not really making a valuable contribution with our knowledge. So ultimately, blogging is a big challenge. It is really hard to keep motivated when you're trying to battle that old quality versus quantity dilemma. But there are some pros and cons that go along with writing all the time. Essentially, if you want to be a successful blogger, you are going to spend a lot of time writing. You're going to spend time working toward daily content, or at least several times a week. But there are some good things that come with this. So, pro number one is that you do improve. By writing a lot, by pushing yourself toward deadlines, you're going to improve your craft. Even if you're not consciously going out and picking up craft books and trying to improve your writing that way, just doing it a lot is going to help you identify weaknesses in your writing in areas where you could improve. And as you keep writing, you'll figure out what works, what doesn't, and that's ultimately going to help you improve. So number two is that you will also get an almost journal-like history of what you are up to at any given time. So even when you're writing, how-tos and things like that, things that are supposed to entertain or inform, you're still going to have some kind of autobiographical quality to that. So even if you're not strictly writing like, today I had avocado toast or something like that, your writing and your topics are still going to show what was going on in your life at the time. For me, a few months ago, I moved. So around that same time, I wrote a couple little silly listicles about things like how to save money on moving. I wrote some more serious pieces about saying goodbye to a place, allowing yourself to be nostalgic, kind of like softer topics, but still things that I thought were universal enough experiences to warrant writing about. But ultimately, now when I look back on what I was writing then, I can see clearly I was moving at that time. So it's kind of interesting because when you look back at all the content you've written, you will get that journal-like quality. So big pro number three about writing constantly is that you will amass a portfolio of works and you will do it pretty fast. So you can use that portfolio to apply to jobs, you can use it as a reference if you're trying to advance your education, if you're trying to do any kind of digital media type of degree, it's a great thing to pull up and be able to show that you are an active content writer. So while there are a lot of pros, and of course we can't deny the fact that a lot of the time if you're blogging you are trying to generate revenue in some way or another, whether that's by writing on a website like Medium that pays its writers or writing on your personal blog and directing people toward a product, you're probably trying to generate a little bit of cash in the process. Additionally, if you blog a lot, you might also get hired by businesses to do a little bit of web content writing. So another of the biggest pros of blogging constantly and writing constantly is that you'll make a little bit of money, and there's no harm in not wanting to be a starving artist. Yet, with all of those cool pros, there's also a lot of cons. Most people who do web content writing also have their creative writing passions, such as fiction, poetry, short stories. And if you are really focused on growing your presence as a blogger, you are not going to have quite as much time for those other areas of writing that you want to do. So the number one con of writing constantly is that some of your other pursuits are inevitably going to kind of fall by the wayside. Con number two is that not all your pieces are going to be winners. Some pieces that you work really hard on will do great, others will kind of flop. I always try to take this as a lesson to try to look back at the piece and see how I can fix it and improve it. But it is definitely a drawback of web content writing because you might put your heart and soul into something and it might not do so well. Other times you might do something kind of quickly and it might suddenly take off and kind of just baffle you. So it is a matter of learning content strategy. You can keep learning. Of course you want to learn from your mistakes, but it does feel like a drawback sometimes when you work really hard on something and it doesn't quite bear fruit. A third drawback of doing web content writing all the time is that you're going to get very protective of your time. So your weekend time, your evening time, you're going to have to put time aside, and you might end up saying no to some things that you would have rather liked to do. It's hard to make time for friends, it's hard to make times for any kind of social engagement, but ultimately strive for balance. It's definitely a drawback because you're going to need to put that time in. You're going to have to say no to some things in order to protect your writing time. However, if you keep your eye on the prize and you keep pushing forward, then the pros ultimately do outweigh the cons. So wherever you are in your web content writing journey, keep at it, keep working, keep writing, and keep improving. We always have more we can learn. So have a great day, guys, and I wish you luck with your next piece.